In this video, we're covering 5 things that people don't tell you when you're starting a nonprofit. Let's do it. We are Ted and Lisa Snyder, and we're nonprofit consultants. We do this because we believe that a better world needs healthier nonprofits. And we really think that leaders can live a fulfilled life while fulfilling their mission. Now, it's really important when you're starting a nonprofit to realize that there are a lot of things that you don't know, but there are 5 really big things that we feel like we wish people would have told nonprofit leaders, because we talk to nonprofit leaders a lot and they say, these are the kind of things that I wish somebody would have told me, I would have known about, or they're surprised when they get into it. Like, what did I get into?
And it's interesting for us because nonprofit leaders will tell us, we'll be in a video and they're like, did you know? We're like, yes. Did you not know? So if you are considering starting a nonprofit or you have started one recently and you're kind of surprised how it's going, these 5 things might help give you some great context for what's going on so that you know how to continue forward in a better way for your nonprofit.
So number 1, as the founder and leader, you are the chief fundraising officer.
Now, this does not matter who you have on your board, in your financial positions, or anything like that. You might even hire someone to help you with fundraising or bring on a volunteer. But at the end of the day, you as the leader getting started, you are the chief fundraiser for your organization. So often we talk to leaders who tell us, I did not get into nonprofit stuff to have to talk about money, to raise money, to feel like I'm in sales, to have these conversations. But if you got into nonprofit work, you did get into that. You might not have known you were getting into that, but it doesn't matter who else around you loves doing fundraisers. At the end of the day, the level of influence in your voice within your organization and leading your organization is the number one fundraising opportunity. Understanding how to actually craft your message, how to ask for money, and how to actually engage with donors is highly, highly, highly important.
Now, that doesn't mean that you need to be the only person fundraising. What we're just saying is that it is the easiest for you to raise the funds.
Yeah.
Other people can do it, but you just having a simple conversation as the leader, as the one who's kind of carrying the heartbeat of the organization, it's way easier for someone to connect with that and to say, here's some money. So it's like low-hanging fruit is what we're trying to say. It's low-hanging fruit for you as the leader to figure out how to leverage your skills and gifts and abilities to fundraise.
Yeah. And getting started, it's going to be easier to find volunteers for other areas than volunteers who are going to help you with the fundraising. And so recognize that this is a super important role for you. And in order for your organization to get what it needs to really get off the ground and start making an impact, you're going to have to be willing to lean into this and really embrace it.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 2, volunteerism is a powerful metric. It's even more powerful than you realize.
A lot of times, nonprofit leaders, you have your board getting started. And a lot of times the board becomes the key volunteers for the organization. But as you're getting started, we highly encourage you to have your board, allow them to volunteer if they want to, but really start growing your actual just pure volunteers, that volunteerism base. This metric has so much power within your organization. It gives you access to more donors. It gives you access to more time because you can actually hand off parts that you need done and they can help you. And it gives you access to more networks. The more people that you have volunteering with you, the more people that are likely going to be sharing about your nonprofit, about future events, about goals that you're doing, about what you're working on. And so understanding that volunteerism is one of the best ways, if not the best way to grow your nonprofit is huge. If you can get this figured out, it will help take care or pretty much take care of most of your other issues, honestly.
Yeah, this one we pulled right from our course that talks all about getting more and better volunteers. And what we've found from research that we've paid attention to and things that we've learned is as volunteerism grows, the rest of the organization grows.
Yep.
And it's because you have more people carrying the heart and the vision of what you're doing. And the big challenge then is to figure out how do I incorporate volunteerism into my nonprofit? Because it's not always obvious.
Right.
And so, our biggest recommendation is just start thinking about what's the work that's getting done? How could you systemize this? How could you break it down into smaller pieces so people could come in for a couple hours a week and get parts of it done? just think outside the box and get creative a little bit and figure out how can I create some volunteer roles to increase volunteerism, because it is a powerful, powerful metric.
Yeah. And with that, number 3, guilt doesn't work. So as you're looking at getting volunteers and figuring out how that might be possible, guilt is not a useful tool long term. It short term might give you a spike of donations or a spike of volunteer hours. But long term, people are going to feel that when they think about your organization. And so you might be able to get someone for a time or two, but 3 months from now, when they're looking back about volunteer and thinking about volunteering with you, they're going to feel guilt and remember that that was the main emotion that they felt. Not that they felt fulfilled, not that they felt excited, not that they felt happy to be there, but that you made them feel guilty. And they are not going to want to engage with that. How often do you stay friends with someone who is constantly just guilting you for something in your life? After a while, you just start, you're like, I don't want to hear it again. And that's what people will start to think about your organization. So when you are leveraging nonprofits or other aspects of your leadership, guilt is like the lowest rung that you could go to. And it's also incredibly harmful, but it feels like a useful tool when you are feeling desperate. So we encourage you, learn how to leverage pretty much anything else.
Yeah, my encouragement is always figure out how to inspire people to stuff and learn how to actually give real value to people. Like, what is the value that you're giving a donor when they give you money? You know, what is the value that you're giving a volunteer when they come in to help out around the office?
Yep.
Right? So figure out how to bring value and inspire people. And the moment that you catch yourself trying to guilt trip people, or even in just talking with the people around your organization, ask them on a regular basis, hey, how much do you feel like we're leveraging guilt here? Because in nonprofit work, it can be a thing that even just the work that you're doing naturally carries with it a little bit of guilt. I think immediately of like the Save the Children commercials, where it's like, I don't think they're trying to make you feel guilty, but they show kids in really terrible situations on the TV screen. I don't know if they really do these commercials anymore, but I remember them from when I was younger.
They were like in the 90s, very common.
But I mean, like, you feel a little guilty for not doing it. And so as a nonprofit leader, especially depending on what sector of the nonprofit stuff you're working on, be careful to protect against guilt being a motivating factor for people.
Oh, one area of guilt that people don't often recognize that they're doing as leaders is when you start becoming the martyr for your organization. Oof. You start the nonprofit and then it's like, oh, it's just so hard. I just don't have what I need. If only people gave, if only people helped. That's not fair to the people around you. And at the end of the day, you're the one who chose the work. They didn't choose the work for you. And so you need to find ways to inspire other people to want to be a part of it. Because if you're just walking around like the martyr all day, at some point someone's going to look at you and say, if you hate your cause that much, why are you trying to help it?
And why are you trying to get me to help you?
And why are you trying to get me to help you do it? And it's not healthy long term. It's going to actually fry you long term if you're walking around with that mindset. So take care of that right away and start finding other tools to use that you can leverage to inspire other people to want to be a part of what you're doing.
Number 4, you can partner with other nonprofits. Whoa! Sometimes this is just something
so fun.
This is something that just kind of goes over the head of a lot of nonprofits, because you feel like you're alone and almost in competition with other nonprofits, because they're trying to raise funds, they're trying to get volunteers, they're trying to work with a lot of the same sort of networks and constraints that you have, right? So it can be easy to think like, oh, down the street, this other nonprofit is doing something sort of similar to me. I'm in competition with them, rather than thinking about how could we partner together in a way that is mutually beneficial.
Yeah, if you have a big project that you want to do, getting other nonprofits on board can be highly beneficial for every single organization. And as you're spreading the word, then you're all helping to spread the word about all of the organizations. And what's great about that is at the end of the day, someone who is really, really interested in your cause might not be interested in the cause down the street, and vice versa. So if you invite someone to this event that has 5 different nonprofits, you might invite someone who isn't particularly like excited about supporting what you're doing. Not that it's not valuable, it just doesn't resonate with them the same way. But if part of your network comes and they actually get introduced to another organization that they're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize this was happening in the area." They're going to get a volunteer and support that way, and it goes both ways. It's something interesting about being open-handed with the people that you have around you with other organizations creates really interesting partnerships where there's actually more available in terms of volunteer hours and donations if you're willing to be strategic about it and help each other grow.
Yeah, it's the concept of a slice of pie, but it's a bigger pie now.
Mhm.
It's the same kind of concept, just getting the word out together, working together to see things happen. I just think a lot about like how, um, churches and cities could do things together, and I mean, people are going to choose which church they go to based on their kind of preferences of what they like to have in a church, whether it's traditional or modern or whatever,
Yeah.
right? They're they're not really in competition with each other. These churches could be like really binding together and throwing some really amazing community outreach, community events together. But I feel like there's so much of like a worry that, oh, if I partner with this other church, the people who go to my church are going to go there instead.
Well, it's this weird idea of if you're not with us, you're against us. But when multiple organizations are all trying to tackle the same cause or help the same group of people, then it's not competition. It's if you're with any of us, we're all taking the hill together. And so if you can find a way to actually partner with other nonprofits, like most churches could partner with other churches and it wouldn't really be an issue because people have their preference and they're going to go to the one that they're drawn to. But they'd all be working toward the same cause, right? So you might actually get bigger community impact and actually help everyone.
I'd say
Across the
too,
board.
when you're partnering with nonprofits, it builds people's trust in your nonprofit because you're not clenched fists
Yep.
with the resources that you have. It shows a certain amount of confidence to say, hey, we know that what we're doing is so important that like we can be open-handed with this a little bit and partner with other nonprofits and not be so worried.
Now, the last one, and I'm sorry in advance, but this one's really important for you to know. Everyone will encourage you until you start, and then the pool will shrink. It's just something that happens with nonprofits. People get excited about you accomplishing what your dream is and getting it off the ground. And people from a distance are like, yeah, that's an awesome idea. You should totally go do that. That doesn't mean that they have then committed to actually donating or volunteering in the future. Likely it's people around you who truly do support you as a person. They see something that you're passionate about. They see your potential to tackle it. And so it can feel like I have all of these people supporting me. And as a leader, you might think that support automatically translates into resources once I have the nonprofit papers in hand. And unfortunately, the norm is that that's just not the case.
Right.
Typically, the number of volunteers or the number of people who are willing to support you, because they actually do support you. I have to believe most of those people, they're not lying. They're not trying to just tell you what you want to hear. Like they really do think it's a good idea and you can accomplish it. But that doesn't mean that they have actually bought into the vision themselves or that they have the space or capacity or financial resources at this time to volunteer in the way that you think that they should.
Now, this doesn't just apply when you're first starting the nonprofit, but also anytime you want to start a new project or do a new event or do like a fundraising push. People will be more supportive before it starts, but then once the crap hits the fan and it becomes real and tangible, then people start to analyze. And this is where the pool shrinks. People start to actually think, oh, is this actually worth my time to get involved?
Mm-hmm.
Is this worth my money to help support it financially? And so this is where you need to be very, very intentional with making sure you're communicating the vision really well, helping people see the metrics and share the stories of how things like this in the past have helped your cause, because people will start to analyze. But if you give them a few pieces of data to say, hey, in your analyzation of whether you want to help or not, you can take these things into account. That's more likely to help get people on board with supporting the organization and supporting what you're trying to do, not just supporting you as a person.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is it goes from personal support, I know you, and so I'm supporting you, to now I'm supporting an entity or an organization. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't always make an automatic transfer.
I'd say more often than not, it doesn't make an automatic transfer.
Right. And so planning accordingly and helping people to build that bridge from you trust me to you can trust what we are doing over here. Sometimes that takes time. But just remember that just because someone doesn't support you in the way that you are expecting on day one doesn't mean that they are never going to.
Right.
So, with that, if you are looking for a way to continue growing your nonprofit and you're just not quite sure how to even find more people because you're like, okay, I have my pool, I got started, and now the pool feels like it's drying up a little bit, we have a ton of tips on how to help you actually find some more volunteers. So, here's a great video for you, and we will see you over in the next one.